Hello, welcome back to Algebra. This lesson we're continuing to factor trinomials of the form where they're quadratic polynomials, meaning they have an x squared term. So in the last section, we've covered all the groundwork to do all of these kinds of problems. You have a trinomial like x squared plus 2x plus 3, and you want to factor it. It means you want to find two things that multiply together to give you that trinomial. And we went through kind of the process and the procedure in the last section. This lesson, we're just going to continue to expand and just do harder and harder problems because you just need a lot of practice with factoring trinomials because it's used in so many different areas of algebra, also calculus, physics, chemistry, any engineering. It's very, very, very important type of equations to know how to factor. And you just have to trust me a little bit for now. But it is. So what we'll do is we'll continue on by solving the following problem. By the way, as I write this on the board, y squared minus 8y plus 9. If you haven't watched the last section, please, 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 please do it. Because if you don't, you're just wasting your time. I've covered the core concepts of everything you need to understand this in the last section. So make sure you've done that. So here we have a trinomial, and we want to try to factor it. Now, if it is factorable, it'll look like a product of two binomials. Now, I've been mentioning that a few times because sometimes these trinomials aren't factorable at all. But let's just try and see what happens. All right, let's see. The first term, y squared, will be the product of the first two parts of these binomials, as we have always been talking about in the past. So y times y gives me y squared, so I can put that there. And then I can choose what to put in the last guys to multiply together and give me 9. I have some choices. I can do 3 times 3. I can do 1 times 9. They both give me 9. So let's start out with what I think of typically first, 3 times 3. Now here's what you have to do. I mentioned this in the tail end of the last section, but I'm going to kind of retread a little bit because it's actually really crucial that you understand this if you didn't make it all the way to the end of the last section. When you're choosing these last two numbers, in this case I put 3 times 3 is 9 there. You have choices. You could do 1 times 9, you could do 3 times 3. If you had a larger number like 56, there's lots of different things that can multiply together to give you 56, right? So you have different choices. So it's important because you can get the wrong answer a bunch of different ways to make intelligent choices. So as we saw in the last section, the challenge was to figure out these two numbers to multiply to give us 9, but at the same time that the interior terms and the exterior terms, once you multiply them, you can add them together to get 8. So the easiest way to do this, the shorthand way to do this, is go ahead and put the 3 and 3 down there before you put any signs in place. Here's what you're going to do. You know that these two guys are going to give you, I'm going to write down 3y, and when you multiply them. And you know that these two are going to multiply to give you 3y also. And you know that if there might be pluses and there might be minuses here, but you're going to essentially add those together. So what I want you to do, instead of doing all of the different possible combinations of the signs and then finally seeing if it's correct, you need to figure out if it's even possible for these terms to give you this. And the best way to do it is to go over to the side, ignore the y for now, and ask yourself, 3 plus or minus 3, can that ever equal 8? Think about what I'm saying. If I put plus plus here, I'll have positive 3y and positive 3y. I'll be adding them together. Now I've dropped the y's here because it doesn't matter. It's just the numbers that need to really match, right? But 3 plus 3 is 6. There's no way that's ever going to give you 8. Now, if I choose a minus and a plus, then I'll get a negative 3y and I'll get a positive 3y. So I might actually end up subtracting these terms, meaning it could be a minus sign. So when you're evaluating